Hi, good afternoon to everyone. Today I'm going to share with everyone about puja. What is puja and what is the benefit of doing a puja? Because for the past 8 to 9 years when I was working in the outlet, a lot of people they come to me and then they tell me that they feedback to me that the prayers that they did at home, the puja they did at home, it seems like it is not effective. And they have tried a lot of times and it doesn't help them a lot in solving their problems, in helping them to overcome their obstacles. So today I'm going to share, which is when we do puja, what do we need when we do a puja? So first of all, what is a puja? Puja is a Tibetan word of prayers. We do prayers to the Buddha. And puja is the extension of our care to the people around us or to our loved ones. What do I mean that extended care? Which is, for example, if let's say we meet someone or the people, our close relative, our families, when they have problems, like they have financial problems, they have health problems, and they are having problems in their business, careers, and anything that we are not able to help them. It doesn't mean that we just sit there and we see them suffer from their problems. A lot of times we can actually do something that dedicate to them. For example, to do prayers for them, to make offerings to the Buddha, to request the Buddha to help them to overcome their problems, to release their sufferings. That's why when we do a prayer, it is to show that we actually care for them. That is the extension care, which is something that we cannot help, but we request the enlightened beings to help them. And thirdly is puja. It also means offering. When we do a puja, we are actually making offerings to the Buddha. Offering of what? Offering of sound. If any one of you attended this morning prayer by the group of monks over here, when they do the puja, they actually sing it. They sing the puja. Singing is the offering of sound, the offering of music. And at the same time, they are also using those ritual items. If you see here, there is the drums, there are bells, and other ritual items. All these ritual items are, when they play the ritual items, is when they are offering the music, the sound to the Buddha. So puja is also a form of offering to the Buddha. And when we do puja, it is to help us to collect merits so that we can overcome the problems. And in Buddhism, when we do puja, it is a praise, is for us to offer praise to the Buddha, but it is not to please the Buddha. Why? Because Buddha does not need our please. They don't have the ego, and they have already gained enlightenment. They have let go everything. So they doesn't need our please, they doesn't need our praise or anything. But when we praise them, when we make offerings to them, it is for us to accumulate merits. And it is also for us to tap into the Buddha's enlightened energy so that we can request the Buddha's help, the enlightenment energy, to help us to overcome our worldly problems that we are facing, that we created from our previous life. And for a non-ordinary person, which means the highly attained monks, for attained person, when they want to solve a problem, when they want to overcome an obstacle, normally they only need to recite a mantra, or they can request directly from the Buddha to help them to overcome the problem. But for a normal people like us, we need to do a puja to request the Buddha to help. Why? Because we do not have the ability to see the Buddha, we cannot talk to the Buddha. So we need to request the Buddha by performing a puja to request for the help. And when we do a puja, how to have an effective puja? It is not that, we just recite whatever it is in the prayer book and that's it. It's not that. When we do a puja, it must come together with a good motivation and the right factors for us to achieve the result. What is the right factors? That is inclusive of the 7 limb prayers. In a puja, it's actually separate into 7 sections, which we call 7 limbs. And these 7 limbs is, the first one is prostrations with refuge. Before we start the prayer, we always start with doing prostration. Prostration, we can do prostration physically, and also we can do prostration verbally. And normally when we do prayers, we do both physically and verbally. And when we prostrate, who do we prostrate to? We actually prostrate to the Buddha that we do the puja for. For example, if this puja I'm doing it for Medicine Buddha, I'm prostrating to Medicine Buddha. If this puja I'm doing for, let's say, Dojo Shugden, I'm prostrating to Dojo Shugden. So normally when we do prostration, we will, in English it is called, I take refuge to our Guru, I take refuge to the Buddha, I take refuge to the Dharma, I take refuge to the Sangha. Which is, every prayers we did, the first thing is to take refuge with the Buddha. And when we do prostration, it actually purifies our negative karma that caused by our body action. We call it body karma. What does it mean by body karma? That is negative karma that we use our body to act on it. For example, we rob someone, we steal, we cheated people. All this is through our body action. So when we do prostration, we actually purify this body karma. And it also allows us to create the cause to achieve the same quality as the Buddha. So during sometimes we do prostration retreats. What do I mean by prostration retreat? Which is, for example, let's say I'm doing 10,000 prostration in, let's say, a month time. Then in 1 month, I will equal out every day how many prostration I need to do to achieve 10,000 prostration a day. Prostration, there is 2 types of prostration. One is half, another one is full. Full prostration is our whole body, we go down on the floor. And prostration, it is also to train our ego, to put down our ego. That's why we put our whole body lying flat on the floor. Because how many people they can do that, which is to put themselves flat, which is to put down the whole ego down. It's not easy. So by doing prostration, it is to create a cause for us to let go our ego. That's why prostration retreat is something very, very powerful that to purify our body karma. And the second limb is making offerings. If you look at the altar behind here, there's a lot of flower offerings, a lot of food offerings that we make to the Buddha. When we make offering to the Buddha, it does not just allow us to collect merits, but it is also to help us to receive the necessary material helps in order for us to be able to practice Dharma. Like yesterday, I shared about wealth, which is we need to give in order to take. It is the same thing here. When we make a lot of offerings, is to practice our generosity, so that when we offer a lot to the Buddha, in return, we will also get back. Get back what? Which is, if let's say I have financial problem, I have health problem, when I make offerings, when I do prayers, I will receive help by having good health. I'll receive help by overcoming financial problems and so on, so that we are able to practice Dharma without worries, without sufferings, or without hassles. And there are many types of offerings, like candle offerings, incense offerings, water, food, tea, and many more. That's why every time you go to temple, there's always a lot of offerings that you can buy it and then you can offer to the Buddha. And the third one is making confession. We confess to a Buddha. In the prayer, there is one section which we call Kawang. Kawang is the confession prayer that we pray, we confess to the Buddha, and it helps us to purify our negative karma. And when we confess to the Buddha, it's very powerful, especially when we confess with deep regret of what we have done previously. Not talking about past life, but this life. What we have done in this life, the people that we have hurt, the bad things that we have done, the negative actions, thoughts, and speech that we have done. So we confess to the Buddha with deep regret, and it is very powerful in the purification process. But for this regret, it's not something like, oh, I regret now, really regret, and tomorrow it goes back to the same. When we regret, we have to remember it and we have to change it, so that tomorrow I don't repeat the same mistake. If not, then every day I have to regret the same thing. It makes no meaning already. And how much our karma purified, it depends on how strong we regret on our past action and how strong we take refuge in the Buddha. So when we pray to a Buddha, when we do a prayer, we must have very strong faith to that particular Buddha that we are praying to. If not, the prayer is just some empty words. It doesn't mean anything. And the fourth limbs is, we must rejoice and in all the virtuous deeds. What is the meaning of virtuous deeds? For example, what the Buddha has done and all the Buddha's past life has done, we rejoice to that. That's why when we want to do a prayer to a Buddha, when we want to invite a Buddha statue home to pray, to make offering to a Buddha, it is very important that we know who is this Buddha, and the past life of this Buddha, the achievement of this Buddha, the attainment of this Buddha. Everything about this Buddha. The more we know about this Buddha, the stronger our prayers will be. So it's not something that, oh, people say that this Buddha is very good, you invite home. Then few years later, someone say, oh, that Buddha is very good, you invite home. But at the end, when asked, why are you praying to this Buddha? I don't know. They are very good. So when we want to invite a Buddha statue, it's very important that we know who are we inviting home. Medicine Buddha, who is Medicine Buddha? What has Medicine Buddha achieved? For example, Dorje Shugden. What has Dorje Shugden achieved? Who is Dorje Shugden? So the more we study on that Buddha, the better our prayers will be. And when we rejoice in all the virtuous deeds, it is actually also for us to collect vast amount of merits and for us to create the connection so that in the future we can perform the same action. either this life, future, or future life. How to perform the same action? That is, sometimes when we see someone who is doing very good, we may not follow exactly what that person has done. But when we feel rejoiced to what that person has done, it indirectly planted an imprint in our mind. Then in the future, when we came across the similar situation, we will do back almost the same action as what the person has done. That's why imprints are very important. So we must always rejoice. When we see people's success, we don't be jealous of them. Oh, why these people so success? We must rejoice to the successful, so that in the future we can also be same as success as them. And then the fifth is we must request for the teaching. Request for the teaching doesn't mean that, oh, the Buddha will come appear in front of you and give you teaching. When we request the teaching from the Buddha, it is for us to request the Buddha to give us an antidote to end the suffering. Like for example, if I have fever, I go and buy medicine for fever. If I headache, I buy medicine for headache. So every type of suffering, they have their own antidote. And Dharma is like a medicine. When we suffered from certain things, we go to Dharma practice, we go to a Dharma center to find the specific antidote to heal our suffering. And when we request the Buddha to give us teaching, it is for us to collect the merits so that we are able to receive Dharma teaching from a Dharma teacher. And then when we request for the teaching, it is also for create the condition that when we are in a Dharma teaching, when we are in a Dharma class, we will not feel sleepy, we will not feel bored, and we will be very happy. Whatever the Dharma teacher teach, whatever the Sangha teach, or whoever who teaches Dharma, we will always be alert, interested, and we will always feel very happy when we receive the teaching. The sixth is requesting the teacher to remain. When we request the Buddha to remain, it creates a cause for us, for our teacher to have long life. What is the relation between a teacher and a Buddha? It's because for us, we can't see the Buddha, we can't talk to the Buddha, we can't listen what the Buddha said. So our teacher is a representation of a Buddha in the world, which we call a living Buddha, which means the Buddha who lives in this world, who can give us Dharma teaching, who can share with us, who can teach us to do pujas and everything to help us to overcome our sufferings. So when we request the Buddha to remain, it is for us to create a cause so that our teacher will also remain here for very, very long. And when we request the Buddha to remain, it is also for us to create a cause so that we can meet a qualified teacher. There are some people who say that, oh, I don't have a teacher, then how to request my teacher to live long? So if for anyone who have a teacher, it will for them to collect the merits for the teacher to live long. For anyone who doesn't have a teacher, it will be create the condition for them to meet a qualified guru. And also, it will, if someone who have not met a guru, who doesn't have a guru, it will create the condition for them to receive Dharma in any way. Even when I met someone, I can learn Dharma from them. When I experience a situation, I can learn Dharma from that situation. It will manifest in such that wherever I go, I will have the chance to receive Dharma teaching. And the last one is the dedication of merits. After we have done the 6 limbs in front, we actually collected merits. And all these merits, we have to do a dedication to seal it. Because when we do prayers, it's something that is very holy. But then after prayer, if let's say I go out and then I talk, I gossip, I chit-chat, all these holy prayers that we have done, it will gone. That's why normally after we finish our prayers, immediately we will do sacred verses, that is the dedication, to seal off all the merits that I have collected, so that it will not like gone missing. And then what is the benefit of doing a puja? When we do puja, it is very powerful when it comes with good motivation. What is good motivation? Good motivation means that why do we want to do the puja? If let's say I do the puja because I want to strike lottery, if I want to do puja because I wanted certain things, it's not to say whatever we request is not good, but whether is it suitable for us or not. The Buddha, they have clairvoyance. They can see through our past, present, and future. If let's say the things that we request is not good for us, the Buddha will never give us. But the Buddha will help us in a way that in the future we are stable enough to get what I wanted. For example, I'm sure a lot of you here are parents. You have children, let's say at the age of 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old. When, let's say they are sick, you send them to see doctor, you get medicine for them. And while on the way going back, they saw an ice cream car. For them, whether they are sick or not, of course they wanted to eat the ice cream. And when they request, Daddy, Mommy, I want to eat ice cream, will you buy for them? Don't forget they are having fever, they are having flus. So as a parents, we know that right now with this condition, if they eat ice cream, their sickness will get worse. But as a children, they don't understand. They will just say that, hey, how come I want to eat ice cream but my daddy don't buy for me, my mommy don't buy for me, ayo, my daddy don't love me already. That is normally what they think, because their knowledge is only at that level. But as an adult, we know that if they eat ice cream, their sickness will get worse. So we will not let them eat the ice cream. Doesn't mean we don't love them, or doesn't mean we will not allow them to eat ice cream forever. But we will bring them home, we will give them medicine. After their sickness cured, then only I will let them eat the ice cream. It is the same thing as the Buddha. When the Buddha does not help us in certain wish that we wanted, doesn't mean the Buddha is not effective, or doesn't mean the Buddha does not suit us. It's just that the Buddha is using other way to help us. Once our karma is purified, once our condition is stable enough to receive what I wish for, then the Buddha will fulfill our wishes. For example, if let's say I'm praying to strike lottery, doesn't mean striking lottery is not good. But if let's say after I strike lottery, my mind will go down, I will start to enjoy life fully, I will quit my job, I will go holiday all the time, then if you are the Buddha, I'm sure you won't fulfill that person's wish. Right? So motivation is very important when we do a prayer. And this motivation, it should comprising of the factor of benefiting myself and benefiting other people. That is what we call a good motivation. And Dorje Shugden, the biggest statue that you see behind me, is called Dorje Shugden, the World Peace Protector. And Dorje Shugden has manifested in the condition that is having the closest affinity with us. So that when we pray to Dorje Shugden, we can see the result very fast. It doesn't mean that other Buddha is not good. Every Buddha is very good, but every Buddha has their specific time. So at this time, Dorje Shugden has the closest affinity with us. So it's very, very good when we do Dorje Shugden's puja every day. Like this morning and yesterday morning, we have done 2 sessions of Dorje Shugden's puja. And when we pray to Dorje Shugden, it can help us to achieve our wish in the fastest way and the best way. And when we do a puja, it will not take away the problem that we are having right now. It's not, puja is not like a magic. It's not that, oh, after I done the puja, bling, my problems all gone. It's not that. Puja is, after we done the puja, it is to purify the root cause of the problem today. For example, let's say I have a skin disease. When I go and see the doctor will not simply give me a medicine to apply on the skin and let it go on. The doctor will find out what is the cause for the disease, for the skin disease. Then he treated from that root cause. It is the same for us as well. Every problem that we face today, every difficulties that we have today, there is a root cause. The difficulties or the problem, it does not come just like that. There is a root cause for it. So when we request for the Buddha's help, the Buddha will help us to purify the root cause of the problem that we face today, so that in the future we don't face the same problem. And when we do puja, it's like we are taking medicine. Different pujas is a different medicine to treat different sickness. Let's say I have health problem, I pray to Medicine Buddha. I have financial problem, I pray to Yellow Zambala or Dorje Shugden or any Buddha that is related to wealth. Same as other problem that we have. And when we do a puja, it is actually also to create the right external condition. It is also to create the right internal condition and to overcome obstacles and problems that disturb our spiritual practice. What is the meaning of right external condition? In the world, there are too many entertainments. There are too many attractions. A lot of times, we cannot focus in doing our prayers. Like when we do prayers, there's like let's say there's 60 pages, there's 40 pages. Halfway doing the prayers, we always see how many pages left. Or we keep looking at the time, oh no, it's 15 minutes already, I need to finish it very fast. That's because I need to go for a movie, or I'm late for dinner, or I'm late for certain appointments, so I need to rush up my prayers. When we do prayers for the sake of doing prayers or for the sake of just finishing it, there's no meaning and that's not effective. So it creates the right external condition, which is for us to have a peace mind, a peaceful situation, and for us to have a teacher around, and also very supportive people around us, so that we can do our prayer peacefully. And the right internal condition, it means that we have the wisdom to realize the preciousness of this practice. We have the ability to retain the Dharma knowledge, which means after we learn the Dharma today, tomorrow we forget everything. That means we don't have the ability to retain the Dharma knowledge. When we learn a Dhamma today, we will remember it and we will apply it in our daily life. That is the ability to retain and to focus on our practice. When I do my prayers, when I do my practice, I'm very focused on it and I apply 100% or let's say 80% of what I have learned in my life. And the last one is the fortitude to persist the practice. When I have learned a Dhamma practice, no matter what condition that has come to me, no matter how difficult the situation is, I will not give up my Dhamma. I will persist, I will continue to practice until the very last day of my life. And the last one is overcoming obstacles and problems that disturb our practice. For example, if I have health problem, it heals us from serious and fatal disease. It protects me from life-threatening situation, from spirit disturbance. It also blesses us with wealth and financial security. And it also fulfills our wishes. So that when we have the material wishes fulfilled, then we can practice Dhamma peacefully. So therefore, when we perform a Dorje Shugden pujas, is to benefit our immediate and also our ultimate goal. Immediate goal, which is whatever I need now in order for me to practice. And ultimate goal is of course we're talking about enlightenment, but that will be very, very far away. So when we do a puja, most of the time it is to help us to overcome our immediate goal first. So when we do a puja, it is not just covering our spiritual needs, but also all our material needs. So if any one of you who are interested, you can come and join our puja. We do our Dorje Shugden puja once a month, which is every first Friday of the month. So whenever you can, if you are in Bentong, it's good, it's very near to you. Even if you are away, like let's say you are in KL or you are from other place, you can also take let's say a half-day leave to come here to join the puja. Because joining this puja, it can actually benefit us in many, many ways. So that's all for my sharing today, and thank you everyone.